Welcome to PTI Hutch Edition. I am Tom Taylor.
And I'm Khalid Hiba.
Start things off, we will talk about the Malaysian flight, Flight 370.
The flight departed from Kuala Lumpur at about 12:30 a.m. and was supposed to arrive in Beijing at around 6:30 a.m.
However, at 1:30 a.m., all contact from this flight was lost.
Also, at around 1:30 a.m., military radar tracked the plane making a U-turn.
No problems were reported to the tower, and no distress signal was issued, so that leads us to believe that the radar was shut off intentionally.
Also, new evidence shows that the plane could have flown for up to 5 hours after losing air traffic control. So what do you think happened to this flight?
Well, with the 5-hour time window, that is a huge window for anything to happen, and I personally believe that this plane could in fact be at the bottom of the ocean, because all signs, I wouldn't say all signs, but most signs lead to a terrorist attack, which that is very alarming. And I just think there's so many possibilities, but I think the main possibility is that it's at the bottom of the ocean somewhere with no surviving passengers.
I agree with you that I do think it's at the bottom of the ocean, but I don't know if it was a terrorist attack. I think it could have been a mechanical error. And I think the pilot's first instinct was to try to get it to safety, and that's one of the reasons they weren't talking to air traffic control. And also, the Indian Ocean is very deep, and it's not that surprising that they wouldn't find the airplane in the Indian Ocean.
Definitely, especially at the bottom, because there's no
It's about 23,000 feet deep, and the weather is a killer sometimes. But the fact that an airplane could disappear with all the technology nowadays,
disappear out of thin air.
It's unbelievable.
And I do believe, I definitely hope that it's not a terrorist attack, but a lot of the evidence points to, why would the radar shut off? Just unintentionally, right before it makes the U-turn.
It could be a coincidence. It could be a mechanical error, electrical, that could have turned off everything. But you make a good point. But we definitely want to hear some stories of if there are any passengers anywhere. I would just want to know what happened during that. Yeah, absolutely. The 239 passengers are our prayers are with them.
Absolutely.
Our next topic will be the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
It all started with Ukraine's financial instability, which resulted in Russia's offer of a $15 billion bailout.
Ukraine was actually under control by the Soviet Union until 1992, and ever since then, Ukraine has been completely reliant to Russia's oil and other resources.
Recently, Putin put military pressure on Ukraine after they started the protest.
Protests began, and laws were actually passed that would allow you to get 6 years in prison just for protesting.
Another side fact, NATO support was requested by Ukraine, which U.S. is a part of NATO, so it's very potential that the U.S. could be obligated to help out.
Another fact would be that 70 people have been killed during these protests right now, and over 570 have been injured. Economic sanctions are being currently put in place against Russia by America, and they're looking for the backing of Europe to also do the same. So I'm just wondering, what do you think America should do to react to Putin's invasion?
I feel like that the first thing we need to do is that the sanctions that we are trying to put in place on Russia, Putin is just treating them as if they're nothing. He's just pushing them aside. He's not listening to them at all. So I think that either increasing the sanctions won't really do much, because a sanction is a sanction. He's just going to push that aside. I think we really need to legitimately start threatening to take action.
That's a fair point, but I will remind you that if America does get the backing of Europe, they should have some serious sanctions put together, and I think Russia will feel the effects economically, and Putin will have to respond some way, and we'll see how he reacts to that.
Right, because at some point Russia has to become corrupt with a dictator like Putin.
Exactly,
it's going to have a crumble.
Ukraine is its own sovereign country. We should remind you that Putin violated international law and a treaty with Ukraine, and he needs to be punished for that.
Right. Our next topic, moving nationally, is healthcare in the United States. To start off, the average cost of a monthly healthcare insurance plan is $328, and that is for the basic middle-class plan.
Just a little background information. On March 23rd, 2010, Obamacare, or the Affordable Health Care Act, was passed into law, and in 2012 it was held up by the Supreme Court, making it the law of the land. And in 2012, the CDC reported 40 million Americans were uninsured.
Right. 7 million Americans are expected to sign up for Obamacare, that's a good thing. We are getting Americans insured. But the question I have for you is that with all the limitations that Obamacare has, what is that doing to the American people?
Right now, I think there are a few glitches. It's a big legislation. Something of this magnitude is going to have some problems, and I think Congress needs to get together and be bipartisan to add some fixes, opposed to the Republicans trying to vote against it and veto it 50 times.
Right. Bipartisanship is definitely key, but and I think it's great that we are trying to insure Americans and giving them insurance because things do happen and sometimes you need to be covered. But the website crash, that can be expected with so many people trying to sign up, and again, which is good that a lot of people are coming to sign up.
Yeah.
But I just think that if we health insurance is sort of a privilege in this country. If you work hard enough, you can afford health care, you are able to protect yourself. So if we give everybody, if we are trying to give every single person health insurance in America, that just becomes a new norm, and health insurance doesn't matter anymore because it's automatically covered. So we just be right back to square one.
I think the more people that get insured, it will be better for us because, like you said, anyone can get sick, and just because you get sick, you don't want to have to lose your house or lose your car or lose whatever. So I think it's vital to the American people for healthcare. I think it's one of the most serious topics that we need to be discussing. And also, I'd just like to note that 32 other first world countries currently have a universal healthcare system in place. And I hope you get on board with this.
Yeah, we'll see.
The next topic we will be talking about is the American tax system.
Some background information. Total revenue from taxes in the fiscal year of 2014, just for America, was $5.7 trillion.
Income inequality is also at its highest since 1928. And just so I can give you some stats, 100% of income growth has gone to the top 10%, and 81% of income growth has gone to the top 1% in the last 20 years, which basically means the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
However, that top 10% of earners paid 71% of federal income taxes. So the top 10% is paying a large majority of the federal income taxes, while the bottom 50% paid just 2% of income taxes, but they earned 12% of the income.
That's a fair point. But I also feel like the rich are a little bit more obligated, and they have the leverage or the ability to
Right.
to give that money to the government, opposed to the poor who are struggling so much right now.
Right. Now, as much as I agree with that, the rich definitely have enough money to support that, but especially in America, the sense of working hard for your money is almost being lost because the more you make, the more you're going to have to give. With a flat tax rate, if you do well and you make a lot of money, you are earning that money. You get to keep that money that you earned. If you say you do have like a minimum wage job and you're just barely getting by, it's your American right to have to pay taxes. The only guaranteed things in life are death and taxes. So, but then just paying the bottom 50%, paying just 2%, that's not paying enough at all. That's just putting it all on the rich. They're just taking their hard work literally out of their pocket.
A little bit. I can understand where you're coming from, although I don't like to look at it that way. I don't like to look at it as if we're penalizing success. I think we're just trying to create more success. And just another note, I have a problem a little bit with big corporations that don't really pay taxes. And just a stat, tax subsidies for 288 Fortune 500 companies amounted to a staggering $384 billion over the last 5 years.
Our last segment here on PTI Hutch Edition has brought us to our wild card round.
Yes, sir.
We chose the topic of paying student athletes in college.
Let's get it.
To start off, there are a total of 420,000 student athletes, all divisions, all genders.
And the NCAA and CBS just agreed to a $10.8 billion deal for the next 10 years just for March Madness, which is about 3 weeks of basketball for $10 billion.
Right. Now, the NCAA college revenue is $10.6 billion. The profit, however, is $9.8 billion, which is still an astronomical amount. To pay those 420,000 athletes, each athlete would make $23,500, and that is 100% of the profit, meaning no profit can go towards advertising, putting the games on TV. It would just be for the college salaries. So I just don't think that we can afford it. I just don't think the NCAA has enough money to pay the athletes, to pay a good amount of money.
To pay all the athletes, yes, but I think if we're talking about Division I big name athletes, I think we can pay them. We don't have to pay everyone. I'm not going to sit here and pay girls lacrosse. Okay, if no one's watching it, if the colleges aren't making any money off of it, I just want to pay big time D1 schools, big time D1 basketball schools.
Right. But can you single out people like that without raising large controversy? Because what if the state champion Division II football teams, they got some really good football players and they're not getting paid, but you got like the 12th man on the bench of Kansas basketball getting paid a good $12,000 a year just to sit the bench and watch.
Well, it's a fair point, but again, I think that's what capitalism is all about. What you're worth is what you get, and that's why I don't believe lower level players deserve as much money or any money compared to the big time players.
Right. Now, our next point could be endorsements, which I actually agree with. For example, if Nike comes up to Andrew Wiggins and says, "Listen, we'd like to sponsor you. We'd like to give you $100,000 to wear Nike products," I'm absolutely all for that because Nike is strictly coming to that player, and why does he have to say no to that? If people are showing interest in him, he's obviously got some God-given talent.
He has his own right to be a part of that endorsement and make that money.
Right, and that's not even coming from the school. That's just coming from Nike.
Exactly, the school has nothing to do with that. And just a quick fact: D1 football player devotes 43.3 hours a week just to football. That's 3.3 hours more than the average working American.
Yeah, some staggering numbers.
Some staggering numbers. And if we don't start paying these players, could lose them.
That's true. The willingness to go to college could disappear.
Absolutely. And one last fact: the Alabama athletic revenue was actually more than all 30 NHL teams and 25 of the NBA teams. So these kids are not just amateurs. These are professional players. These are professional college players that deserve to be paid.
That wraps it up here on PTI Hutch Edition. I am Tom Taylor.
And I'm Khalid Heba.
We'll try to do better next time. Thank you very much.